Matt and I are getting fancy as we give out our 2024 Fantasy Baseball Awards on today's action-packed episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball.
You are Locked On Fantasy Baseball, your daily fantasy baseball podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, fantasy baseball fanatics, and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Baseball Podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, we're your number one source of fantasy baseball knowledge, and thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. I'm your host, Dominic Martino. You can find me on Twitter at DomMartinoFB. Here, as always, is my brother, my co-host, my partner in crime, Matthew Ane, and you can find him on Twitter at Matthew_Ane. If you're listening on a platform like Apple or Spotify that allows 5-star ratings and reviews, we would truly appreciate if you could do that for us. And if you're watching on YouTube and you haven't already, hit that little bell below. It will subscribe you to the channel and give you a notification every time we drop a new episode. And lastly, most importantly to Matt and I, give us a chance on the Subtext platform. Through Subtext, it's an in-depth personalized experience through text messaging alerts, offering so much more than we can in this 30-minute podcast. And if you are interested in joining us on Subtext, the link is in our bio. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. All right, Matt, as I said, we're getting fancy today. We got some awards to give out. It's going to be one of those fun episodes where we, get to just enjoy it and have a little fun. So, but pinkies up. If you know, get a little fancy with it. Matt, you know what? Why don't you take the lead here and start wherever you want? Why don't you give out one of your awards? Where are we going first, brother?
So, first things first, Dom and I agree on this. We'll do some honorable mentions too.
Yes, of course.
So this one is Shohei Ohtani. He's obviously the MVP for multiple reasons. So for starters, because of the discount double check that we got on him this year, that he fell to pick 10 or 11, or even in the second round in some leagues due to the issues with with his translator stealing his money and placing bets. That kind of made him even more of an MVP than he already would have been because of how good he was. But the fact that the draft price was really great, right? You got to walk away with probably Aaron Judge and Shohei Ohtani in some leagues because Aaron Judge was also taking the fall because of the big toe. So you
Matt,
look at,
I chime in just because you nailed it. I'm going to give you the credit here. So coming off of the the board at pick 11 was Shohei Ohtani and pick 12 was Aaron Judge. So you definitely could have been in leagues where you went Judge Ohtani and you were looking great. Just wanted to give you the credit, my brother.
Thank you. Yeah, and a couple of mocks that we do or I've been in, and just looking around, this was totally a legit solution, and you were sitting so pretty. The guy had a ridiculous season too. I mean, 50-50 year. Is that, if I'm correct on? Here we go.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 54 home runs and 59 stolen bases. That is something I never thought I'd see. It's really impressive. He is ridiculous. He literally won you home runs. He definitely push you to the top in your league in stolen bases, and then he managed to bat 310. And then what the Dodgers do? They just dodger and get runs and ribs all day. So ultimately, I wouldn't be surprised. Well, he's nearly a Triple Crown winner if it wasn't for essentially Aaron Judge being as good as he was, and he's your runner-up MVP or your MVPB because he just had as good of a season. So you couldn't have gone wrong either way.
Yeah, Matt, great take with Ohtani, and the crazy thing is that he can pitch too. He might be coming back next year and starting. I'm not sure what the Dodgers are going to do because you know what, with all of the money they have invested with Ohtani, I wouldn't be shocked if they. You know what would be cool, Matt, and tell me if you agree with this one. Why not let Ohtani close? He has to throw one inning at a time. You don't have to worry about the back of the bullpen. If you want to try and bring Michael Kopech to be a starter again, take him out of that role, see if you give him a chance in LA to start. I just don't. It would be a shame if he has to go through another surgery or an injury just because he's trying to push the limits of, being the best pitcher and hitter in the universe, which he's in contention for both. Obviously, he's proven that, this year he was the best hitter in all of baseball. That's why we're giving him our 2024 fantasy MVP award. It's just that he can do so much. I love it. Best player in the game right now. Let's see how Acuna is when he comes back next year. But love me some Ohtani. Ohtani. I think let's keep things pushing. Or you want to chime back in?
I got one thing. I actually don't know if they're even going to have room for him in the rotation.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They have so many guys, right?
Yeah, I mean, you look at it, they got Dustin May, who's probably going to be back next year. They
Glass
have
now.
Glass.
Gonsolin's supposed to be
Yeah.
coming back. Hold on, I can even pull it up. We can even really.
And they got Jack Flaherty. They have
Well,
Walker
I think
Buehler.
Flaherty's a free agent though, so let's see if they
Okay.
resign Flaherty. I think they're definitely going to throw him an offer at least.
I mean, there's no way they're going to let him walk away with the way he's been pitching, but
Oh yeah, he's been even in the playoffs so far.
Yeah. So like there's a world in a way where they even run a 6-man rotation to keep guys healthy, where like he may only pitch like once a
Yamamoto.
week.
How do we forget about Yamamoto?
Yeah.
Walker
Yeah.
Buehler.
Yeah. So like they're loaded. So if they want to keep guys healthy, which can hurt the fantasy production as a whole for all Dodgers, where they let him pitch once a week or every other week, I could totally see that too, where they run that 6-man rotation to give guys breaks, because you look at that and it's also like, man, the medical insurance on this team is kind of high between just Glasnow, Walker Buehler, and Dustin May alone. So it maybe behooves of them to, have that 6-man rotation and have their pitchers pitch less innings.
I'm fully aboard with you on all that, brother. Let's keep things pushing though. Let's move on. We'll do a little bit of Cy Young talk here. And honestly, I have to give myself a little pat on the back here. I was in on both of these guys. I got to talk about my boy Chris Sale and my boy Tarik Skubal, the pterodactyl, best nickname in baseball if you ask me, which my brother Matt has coined. The value that we got on them and the way they performed, they both won the Triple Crowns in their respective leagues as far as pitching. It was really cool to see. So we got Tarik Skubal at SP 13. I had him inside of my top 10 as we finished off the draft season there. He was at pick 48. Chris Sale, we did even better on him. He was a top 25 pitcher for me. We were getting him at SP 36, pick 128 outside the top 100. And the numbers, man, the numbers were just fantastic. I'll say this. I don't think we can, go into 2025 and be like, let's just take Sale and Skubal. The trick is to find who's the next version of them, right? Where we're going to get that great value and do what we do. But let's give the flowers to the guys. It's more about the award. So let's honor what they did this year. Chris Sale at 35 years old with the Braves, first season, 18 wins, 3 losses, a 2.38 ERA in 29 starts, 177 innings, 225 strikeouts, and a 101 whip. Monster year. Definitely comeback player of the year as well. We're not even giving that one out, but if we were, he would get it. Let's move on to Skubal, talk about what he did. Honestly, I think we've talked about him a little bit this offseason, and he's going to be one of the candidates for SP1 going into 2025. Skubal, age 27, season this year, 18 wins, 4 losses, a 2.39 ERA, 31 starts, 192 innings, 228 strikeouts, and he had an 0.92 whip. Skubal, I expect more of the same of next year. We're going to have to take him really high, though. I normally don't take starting pitching that high. Sale, another one, just probably not going to be on him next year either. But you know what? They were fantastic this year, so congrats to those two. Hats off to them.
Yeah, I agree. With everything you've said, that team is, those two have just been fantastic as a whole. Did not see Sale's season coming to be this extreme.
I didn't either. I liked him, but I didn't think it was going to be this good.
Yeah, going into next year though, when it comes to him, I don't think it's repeatable. Obviously, I think because of the age and because of the injury history, I think we got one last magical season out of him, and then he might return to still be elite with like strikeouts and ERAs. But I think the health is going to be something of an issue next year. I could just see it just based off the mileage that's under him. Even though he's, I think, 33 years old, he's not like he's like a grandpa. So
I think he's 35, right? I think he's 35 and 36 next year.
Yeah, so I mean, he's right around that cusp of where we're at the end of their career, whereas pitchers kind of last a little bit longer in how good it is, because the older they are, the better they get. But it's the end. Tarik Skubal is going to be a beast for years to come. My biggest concern with him is him being, a little bit one of the smaller guys in the league. How long can that elbow, withstand? He's already had, I believe had TJ once, and now is going to be, and because he throws so much torque and throws really hard, what's the sustainability of him and how long is he going to last? And the second he has the second one, he's pretty much done. It's a ticking time bomb. So we'll just see what happens. Essentially, I think that Tarik Skubal's a top 10 pitcher for me, if not top 5. But Chris Sale, I think, is going to be more in like the 15 range for me, just based off of where I think the negative regression is gonna see. But anyway, guys, coming up next, we're gonna go over our rookie of the year picks, and then who was the biggest bust this season, and who was the best pickup. All coming up next. And Game Time is the authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which means getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on Game Time app actually go down as they get closer to your first pitch. With killer deals and last-minute deals, all-in-one prices, views from your seats, and the lowest price guaranteed, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets for the MLB. Last-minute ticket deals. These are awesome. You save up to 60% off of buying last-minute tickets for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. They even throw out some flash deals, which are really, really dope. Save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the Game Time event, a game or event. Zone deals, which is interesting, but actually an awesome feature. So essentially, you save even more when you choose the section like Game Time choose the seat for you. You get all-in-one pricing, which it means you're going to have taxes, fees, and all that upfront. So there's no surprises when you get to checkout. You get the views from your seat, which is awesome. You can move it around. You get the panoramic view. You're making sure you're not sitting behind that pole. And they're the lowest price guaranteed on Game Time, or they'll credit you 110% of the difference. Game Time ticket coverage, your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policies in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app and create an account and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Are you watching Fox Sports and ESPN on your TV all day? Have you had to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports Today, a free 24/7 streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or free on the Amazon Fire TV channel app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Introducing the Locked On Fantasy Baseball Diamond Club on Subtext, your ultimate fantasy baseball companion. Now we're in the offseason. It's the best time to get ahead of the competition by joining now. Get your redraft rankings, get your dynasty rankings, get your prospect rankings, get your sleepers, breaks out, busts, all this and more coming up this offseason. And you're going to want to check us out. The link's in the description below. You get a free 2 weeks, so check us out. And please let me stop talking. Can you please take this next one?
Yeah, let's hop in. Matt teased it, so let's do it. We're going to talk rookie of the year here. So I'm going to preface it this way. It's more of a not that Matt and I disagree here. So I'm going to do the bats, and I think Matt's going to do the arm here. Let's put it that way. So for the bats, I'm going with the Jacksons. I'm going with Chourio and Merrill. I think they had fantastic seasons. We got great value on them this year in fantasy. And I think they both just got better as the season went on. Let's talk about Chourio first. His numbers were really good in his age 20 season, 148 games, 528 at-bats, 80 runs, 29 doubles, 4 triples, 21 homers, 79 RBIs, 22 steals, 39 walks to 121 strikeouts, and a 275 batting average. And, he was absolutely fantastic for those Milwaukee Brewers. And he got better as the season went on, which was the awesome part with Chourio. He really, started off a little bit slow. Hit 206 in April and March, hit 215 in May, and the rest of the way, if you held on there, if you traded for him, which we definitely advised you to do, in June, he had 315 with 4 homers. Then he got even hotter in July, hit 317 with 3 homers, 4 steals. Got even hotter in August, 5 homers, a 321 batting average, and 8 steals. And he did cool off a little bit towards the end, hit 263 in September, October, with 4 homers, 2 steals, 16 RBIs. And he hit well in the postseason, too. So I'm a big fan of Jackson Chourio. I think he's somebody I'm going to be have a lot of shares of next year. But let's move on to the other Jackson. Let's talk some Jackson Merrill for the San Diego Padres. Also had a solid postseason. And his numbers on the year as a 21-year-old, he even made the All-Star team this year. 156 games, 544 at-bats, or 554 at-bats, 77 runs, 31 doubles, 6 triples, 24 homers, 90 RBIs, 16 steals, 29 walks to 101 strikeouts, and he hit 292. I think these are two young outfielders that we're just gonna be top players for fantasy baseball for years to come. So I love it. I'm in on them.
Great takes. Merrill, I love the season he had. I don't know if I'm gonna call him super elite yet. He's one that I'm kind of gonna be a little bit more patient. I'd rather miss out on him next year in redraft leagues, just based off of the fact that I want to see it again. I don't know if it's as repeatable as it was as of what he did, and to even take the step forward. But Jackson Chourio, on the other hand, massive prospect pedigree. He finally showed it. And I think you look at the track record of like guys like Bobby Witt, you look at guys like, that have done similar things to this, where, it took a little bit of time and then they exploded and got used to it. That sophomore year is usually that massive step forward, where like we saw with Bobby Witt, who hit almost 300, had 30, 50, and had a ridiculous season. I'm not calling for Jackson Chourio to have that kind of season, but it's in the realm of possibilities with these high-end prospects. So, and Jackson Chourio has all the makings of it. So, like, he's going to be, somebody drafted pretty high. I think probably he's going to go right where Ellie De La Cruz was going this year. And it's going to be a matter of, do you want to take the risk? And quite honestly, guys like him that, have the same developmental path, that show that trend in the same direction, kind of usually do exactly as the guys have done in the same position. So Jackson Chourio, I think, is going to be fantastic. Next, my rookie of the year, though, it's just one, because I think there's only one, and it's Paul Skenes. Paul Skenes is going to be absolutely ridiculous. He had a phenomenal season for a rookie campaign. Then literally, it's a half of season. 133 innings pitched. He had about 170 strikeouts. He had a ERA of 1.96 and a WHIP of 9.4. Like, you're a monster.
He's so good.
He's so good. He's 6'6", and 235 pounds. Like, he has all the makings of a guy that's going to be around for a while. He can handle his body can handle the torque. Whereas, like, I was talking with Tarik Skubal, where, he's not as built because he's smaller. Whereas, like, Paul Skenes is like prototypical, I'm just going to be long and lasting and be this guy. Now, here's the thing, though. I have to cap his upside for 2025. And the reason being is this was the most innings he's ever pitched in his entire career. He has never hit 133 innings, and I don't think that they're going to let him go past $160 next year. That would be my expectation. He's still going to be a top 10 pitcher for me, if not top 12. I have to see where it falls, but essentially it's going to cap it. But if you let him get 160, 170 innings pitched, the dude is still going to have over 200 strikeouts and still be able to keep the ERA and WHIP numbers at a ridiculous low. So I am all about Paul Skenes for next year. But I think after 2025, this kid is going to be the SP1 drafted literally everywhere, and is going to be one of the best pitchers for the rest of his career.
Well, I want to take a little bit of time with Paul Skenes here too. So before I give my take on Paul Skenes, and we have names like Adolis Garcia, Profar, and some really other fun names as well. So you want to make sure you stay locked on, because those names and more are coming up next. And guys, I want to talk to you about my friends over at FanDuel. With FanDuel, when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the stats, you live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. And guys, with the NFL season in full swing, we have so much going on over at FanDuel, so you're going to want to make sure you check out those bets. There's lots of good ones. And as Matt always says, and I'm sticking with it, just take the under on the Giants, guys. Come on, at this point, we're from New York, Giant fans. Just all the unders. They're it's not the year. Nabbers, may or may not be back soon. He's the only one I'll give the exception on. Anybody else, anything else, take the under. And once again, you could do that over at FanDuel.com. All right, so
I need to laugh at you real quick. Hold on, timeout. You called them knobbers. It's neighbors. And,
I thought I didn't say neighbors. I thought I did.
I called them knobbers.
Did I? I thought I said neighbors. Listen, it was we had a rough night last night. Just for anyone listening, Matt and I were at a very very close friend's wedding. Shout out to the bride and groom, by the way. If he's listening, to our friend John Paul and Millie. Lifelong friend. Actually, God got me started on fantasy baseball. So shout out to him. But I do want to take some time with Paul Skenes. Paul Skenes, definitely rookie of the year. Like I said, just kind of wanted to give a shout out to the bats. But yeah, he had a monster season. I will say this though. So I've seen a lot of places already put him as the SP1 for next year. That's a little ambitious for me. I think he's going to wind up in my top 5. He's just got the stuff is elite. He's just one of the best pitching prospects that we've seen in the last 20, 30 years. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not super worried about the innings. He had 133 this year. In 2023, he actually had some innings too. He threw 122 when he was in college, plus the 6. He was at like 130. So he did 130 the last 2 years in a row. I think they could push him. You normally see an increase about maybe 50 innings sometimes. And even if it's 50, it's 180. You don't even see a lot of guys touching that these days. So I'm in on Skenes. I think he's the next big thing. Believe when you see the high rankings of him next year, I think he's a safe SP1. You might have to pay the high price. We'll see where it goes. Let's move on to the biggest bust. I'm guilty of this one. I had him in one of my big keeper leagues. Adolis Garcia, Texas Rangers outfielder. Just really disappointed. I'll tell you this. So after he had his first big breakout season, I was not in on him. He repeated. And normally, Matt will attest to this too. If you see a guy that kind of comes out of nowhere, right, like Garcia did, you want to see it repeated. You want to see that skill set, again, because then they own that. Once they've really done it once, you kind of like own it going forward until you kind of age out of it, which it's kind of starting to look like Adolis Garcia had. This season, 154 games, 580 at-bats, 68 runs, 27 doubles, 25 homers, 85 RBIs, 11 steals, 45 walks to 177 strikeouts, and a 224 batting average. And we paid up. We paid up for Adolis Garcia this year. He was going as the number 13 or number 12 outfielder, pick 37. That was just a lot for him. He had a career year in 2023 with 39 homers, 9 steals, 107 RBIs, and a 245 batting average. Next year, he'll probably still be like a top 30 outfielder because I think the Texas Rangers are going to be better. Counting stats should be a little bit better. But I'm not counting on, the steals being, anything crazy. The batting average, he's a career 239 guy. I'm expecting it to be around there. I don't think we're working in anything of a step forward, and I don't think we're accounting for 39 home runs and 107 RBIs in 2025 for Adolis Garcia. So I'm giving him the biggest bust just for the price we had to pay, and he really didn't come close to what we needed him to do.
Yeah, I covered him on the previous episode, and essentially he's gonna be like a top 40 for me. Is essentially where he's going to be for me. I think that I agree with the Rangers taking a step forward because I talked about how guys just didn't get on base. The runs numbers were totally down, and so therefore if guys are getting on base, you're obviously not going to be able to produce in the runs and ribbies category. That's physically out of your control. But he still was able to walk away with 25 home runs. But the batting average was the biggest thing that kind of struck home.
That's what I was gonna say. If he's hitting for 20 points less batting average, he ain't gonna drive in as much either.
Right, he's trying to take the Schwarber approach where you just don't hit for batting average, but you need to produce in the home run category in order for you to be valuable. So if we're not going to see the batting average come up because he's not putting the bat to the ball as often, then I got a problem with drafting him. I'm not going to have a guy that's going to be batting 230 and only getting me 25 home runs. So as an OF 3 or 4, I'm willing to take the shot on him depending on what my selections are around at the time. He might be like your last ditch effort to have a solid one with some upside. But I think those days are gone. I could totally see where the power kind of sticks around for 25 to 27 home runs. But that's just where the rope ends. I don't think we're going to see him break 30 ever again. But yeah, I'm going to move on. We've covered enough on him. I'm going to talk about my best pickups this year. And that's Spencer Arrighetti, the Yeti himself, and Pete Crow-Armstrong. That's what PCA stands for. We just honestly couldn't fit both names on here because
Two long names.
two longest names I think in baseball right now. It's actually hysterical. But Spencer Arrighetti came out of nowhere. He essentially did not, how do I put this? He did not impress when he first got the call. Let's put it that way. I picked him up. I had to drop him a few times, and then he figured something out. Whatever he figured out really was the key to his success. He ended up having a good finish. He ended up being a really reliable pitcher down the stretch and probably won some people to the leagues. And you look at his total season number, and it doesn't really reflect the performance he had in the down the stretch. Whereas he finished with a 4.53 ERA and a 1.41 WHIP. The WHIP was high. That is legitimate, but the ERA I think was more like a 3.67, 3.70 ERA, and the strikeout numbers were always there. He was just really just blowing guys away at the plate, and I feel like for next year he's going to be a nice sneaky pitcher that a lot of people are going to forget about, and they're also just going to look at last year's numbers and kind of just overlook him because it doesn't describe the season. So, Arrighetti, I'm going to have him as a top 50 pitcher. I'm not ready to anoint him and make him a top 36, top 40. But a top 50 pitcher, I think, is definitely in the realm of possibility for me. Your SP 5 and a 12-man league, probably your SP 4. I think it's a fair thing. I think that the team he's on, we pretty call it the situation for him to, and the probability for him to have success in 2025, I think is pretty great. So he was somebody that you definitely are impressed with and want to have on your team. So now the next guy, Pete Crow-Armstrong of the Chicago Cubs. He was a top end prospect that honestly I'm very impressed with. Let's put it that way. He did not come out looking good at all. In a lot of leagues, you probably had to drop him after you picked him up. But if you stayed true or you picked him back up, you were really happy with the finish. With 372 at bats, he had 46 runs, 10 bombs, 47 ribs, 27 stolen bases. The batting average wasn't reflective either. In some regards, you saw where he was, struggling at the plate, but still producing in the counting stats. I think that's going to take a step forward. He's, this is his first look at baseball, essentially, like major leagues. And I think the step forward is coming. Pete Crow-Armstrong was a great prospect who, hit for average, stole bases, I think has a decent hit tool of power and things like that, where I think we're gonna see in 2025. I was almost gonna say 24, where I think that he's gonna be super successful. I'm gonna have him ranked as probably a top 25, top 30 outfielder for me. You look at the minors, he had 20 home runs through 438 at bats. I mean, that could easily be 25 to 30, and with high upside. Had 40 had stolen bases out the wazoo, 37 and 32 between 22 and 23. The kid is just going to be a monster for 25. I'm super excited for him, and that's why he was a great pickup going down the stretch.
Yeah, man, love PCA. I feel like we've spoken about him so much, so I'm not really going to add too much there. You broke him down perfectly. I just wanted to even go in with you on Arrighetti. I actually have his last. How many starts was it here? Well, his last 50. Oh, yeah, okay, here it is. His last 9 starts. Arrighetti threw 53 innings, had 67 strikeouts, a 2.72 ERA. He had a sub-1 WHIP over that time. Batters were hitting 225, and it was a 3.5 FIP, which is fielding independent pitching ERA indicator. So he was a little bit maybe a little bit worse. So maybe we see Arrighetti with like a 3.5, a high 3s ERA, maybe like a prime Robbie Ray type, where Robbie Ray had, a little bit higher of a 3 ERA, huge strikeout numbers, and the whip should be solid as well. I'll move on to, my last couple of names here. Do want to give an honorable mention. I probably should have spoke about him, but there's not enough time here. Spencer Schwellenbach, he was one of the best pickups down the stretch as well. But I'm going with Jurickson, Profar, and Seth Lugo here. Seth Lugo was a guy I was way higher than the industry on. I had him inside of my top 50 starting pitchers, and he was going so late. I'm not even going to scroll to find it. I know he was going outside of like the top, I think, 80 starting pitchers. So if you listen to me and you kind of snuck him in at the end of your drafts, like I did in a couple leagues, it really paid off. 33 starts for Seth Lugo this year, 16 wins, 9 losses, a 3 ERA, 206 innings, 181 strikeouts, and he had a 108 whip. Very Sandy Alcantara-ish type year from Seth Lugo. He's going to be 35 next year, though, so he he's going to be overdrafted. He's going to be somebody that I probably have very little to no shares on next year. So, shout out to him for this year. Loved it. Helped, a lot of people win championships. Once again, if you listen, he probably helped you win a championship as well. Jurickson Profar, on the other hand, I was not in on. He came out of nowhere. He's 31 years old, former high-end prospect, going back to 2012. Monster, year for him. Just going to throw you his numbers real quick. Profar this year, 158 games, 564 at-bats, 94 runs, 29 doubles, 24 homers, 85 RBIs, 10 steals, hit 280, 76 walks, 101 strikeouts. Good, another guy that's going to be overly drafted next year. I'm out on him for next season. But you know what? He had a great season. If you picked him up, he probably helped you win a championship. Shout out to Jurickson Profar.
Completely
Matt,
agree with
anything
everything you
before we get
said.
out?
Yeah, I completely agree. I look at it like this. Both those guys are going to be completely overdrafted, like Dom said, and let them be a landmine for somebody else. Do not even look their way for 2025. But guys, with that being said, please like, subscribe, comment, rate, review. Check out our boy Solio at Locked On MLB. We are your first listen. As always, make him your second, and have a great rest of your day. Peace out, guys.
See ya.